Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pearce. This is Ukraine War breaking news update concerning the activities in Ukraine last night, particularly Kiev, almost entirely Kiev actually. We had the largest drone attack on Ukraine to date. Absolutely phenomenal numbers, including a 330 single strike, so single wave of 330 drones, which is the most the Russians have used at once, and that's coming from the Air Force spokesman Yuri Ignat. So you can see the map there of where these were aimed, and almost entirely Kyiv, a few going to the west, a little bit, some to Zhytomyr, some further to the west, and then a couple here and there dotted actually near the front lines. Interesting, they come in through Luhansk at the top here, and then do a dogleg back down to that looks like Pokrovsk area, and one down to sort of Zaporizhia there. But nonetheless, it's mainly about Kiev. Huge numbers of drones. In fact, 550 munitions in total. An incredible number of drones and missiles, including a number of ballistic missiles. Of those, 270 were taken out by conventional means, 208 were lost or suppressed by electronic warfare. So that's 478 out of 539 drones. There's only 11 missiles sent, and I think every single one of those missiles got through as well, which is somewhat worrying. So Tim White has a really good account of what's going on. In fact, this is probably a good video to get us started. Here we have Kiev just covered in smoke, as you can see. Now, Kyiv is a massive city. I've talked about this before, and even when it is attacked with quite a few drones, you can have areas that are absolutely hammered, but large areas of Kyiv not being so affected. I think that there were certain explosions right throughout Kyiv last night. In fact, Kalen, who is very central, sent me this video this morning while he was doing a live stream. So this is part of his live stream. So let's do that again. Indeed. Incredible. Kyiv, this is what it looks like at dawn. First light shrouded by smoke. Still the sound of air defense going off there by the sounds of it. Just all sorts, injuries, tears, destruction, glass craters. I mean, look at that for a crater. Wow. It could be that there are no deaths yet, which is absolutely incredible. But there certainly were injuries, people hiding, in your baths. What is it? You want to be 3 walls away or something like that. Just some incredible pictures, and not in a good way. Just striking and horrific. Look at that. That's Kyiv. As the strikes hit, and just all sorts of smoke. But yeah, that image is quite the image, isn't it? Destruction's been recorded in at least 13 locations in Kyiv, 6 different districts. Railway tracks have also been damaged. Trains heading west from Kyiv are subject to diversions, causing a 2-hour delay. In Russia, a number of military targets have also been hit. So the Ukrainians did strike back at Russia, were involved in striking Russia last night, but we won't concentrate on that for this video. It's more about what happened in Kyiv. So we have so more coming down here. Yep. Clearer view of, no, those are the strikes on Russia, which, it's good news that the Ukrainians were active last night themselves. But yeah, so 89% of the drones were stopped. 268 shot down, 208 blocked by electronic warfare. The defense failed to stop one Kinjal or any of the 4 other ballistic missiles, and just 2 of the 4 cruise missiles. So there were a couple of missiles that were intercepted, actually. I stand corrected. So that's 9 missiles by the looks of it there. Some other striking images coming from Kiev. And that's, wow, that's what an image that is. Yeah, just there will be quite a bit of destruction emerging today. Putin definitely did this. You know, there was no coincidence that the phone call with Trump took place and then he did this. And we'll talk about Trump's response not so much to these strikes, because I don't think that's featured yet in his thinking. He'll be, at the time of recording, still asleep, I would have thought. But it's going to be interesting to see if he responds to these strikes, because hopefully he will connect the phone call to these strikes. Andriy Sybiha, the foreign minister, has said absolutely horrible and sleepless nights in Kiev, one of the worst so far. Hundreds of Russian drones and ballistic missiles rained down on the Ukrainian capital right after Putin spoke with President Trump, and he does it on purpose. Enough of waiting. Putin clearly shows his complete disregard for the United States and everyone who has called for the end to the war. Moscow must be slapped with the toughest sanctions without delay. Yes. Ukraine must be provided with all the necessary means to defend itself. Yes. Wrong decisions can only encourage the aggressor to escalate terror. Every criminal regime in the world is now watching closely Putin's actions and responses to them. If he gets away with all of this, everyone will get a very clear message. Stop waiting for peace. Act to achieve peace. Peace through strength. Really well said there. 5 ambulances were damaged last night while attending the injured in Kyiv. Luckily, I don't think any of the emergency workers were hurt in those strikes. School number 22 was hit by ballistic missiles. So an entire school, wiped out or largely, destroyed in a strike with a ballistic missile. Cars upended. Just incredible scenes there of destruction of a school. It's where children go to learn. That's what's being targeted by these Russian attacks, is to try and wreak havoc and terror on the population. I spoke to Kellen Robertson in a live yesterday, and the sounds of the attacks were already being heard by Kalen during that live. The Russians started early last night, and they did because that was when the phone call ended. Phone call ended, and this set of attacks started. So yeah, go and check out that live with Kalen, give you an indication of what his thoughts on these matters are. This is Donald Trump last night responding to the phone call, and I have about the most positive outlook on what Trump might do as a result of this, but it's still really underwhelming, and he's only as good as his last sentence, Trump. So listen to what he says.
I'm speaking to President Zelensky tomorrow, early in the morning, and
today.
I'm very disappointed with the conversation I had today with President Putin, because I don't think he's there. I don't think he's there. And I'm very disappointed. Well, it's not, I'm just saying, I don't think he's looking to stop. And that's too bad. This is Biden. This isn't me. This is.
But he does then pivot to Biden. So Putin's not looking to stop. Let's not blame Putin. Let's blame Biden. But at least that's the most critical of Putin we've heard him. I don't think he's wanting to stop. No, he's not. No, but thankfully you've got there. I mean, it's only taken 3 years.
This is Biden's war. It wouldn't have happened if I were president. It wouldn't have happened. So, I in one way I had to get too involved because it's Biden's war. And I got stuck in the middle of it, just like I did with immigration and a lot of other things that they screwed up. But I was not happy with the conversation, no.
Yeah, but with immigration, you've gone and given ICE the most funding ever. They're now the equivalent to the 16th largest army in terms of funding in the world. So you know, I got stuck in the middle with immigration. It's not my fault. I don't want to do, I am doing something massive about it. We'll do something massive about this. You've contradicted yourself there. I'm caught in the middle. This is Biden's war. You know, he's like, why should I have to do anything about it? Well, for all sorts of reasons that we've discussed over the course of this war. This is in America's best interest to support Ukraine. And now's a perfect opportunity because Russia have, I think, just slapped you round the face with these strikes. Putin doesn't care one iota what you think. He only cares if you stand up with strength to him, and that's what Trump needs to do now. Will he do it? Who knows? Probably not. But it's going to be interesting if Kalen Robertson was right with what he was saying, that Ukraine feel like they've been shackled heretofore, that Trump and the American administration have put pressure on Ukraine not to strike deep into Russia, that the strikes we have seen over the last month or so have been a fraction of what could have happened because of the pressure from the United States. If the Ukrainians now think, well, sod it, nothing's happening, and we've just been attacked with the biggest strike last night in history in terms of drones, then we are just going to go for it now, and to hell with what anyone else thinks. If they feel unshackled, if that is true, then possibly Ukraine could hit Russia hard. I hope that's the case. But in the meantime, it's Ukraine that's getting a pounding from the Russians. It looks like air defense did do a remarkable job considering the sheer volume of what was sent into particularly Kiev. But I guess we're going to have to wait to see what battle damage assessment emerges out of the next few days. We probably won't hear of any military targets that were taken out, if any indeed were. But we will hear about civilian targets being hit. So anyway, that's what's happened. I'm going to get on with my general hits and losses video now. Take care. Speak soon.